You know, sometimes life has a cruel way of showing you the truth. Not gently, but like a hammer crashing through glass. I never imagined that one evening would turn my entire world upside down. My name's Daniel Carter. I'm 37. Just an ordinary guy from a small town in Pennsylvania. Nothing fancy, nothing worth writing home about. My life had always been steady, predictable, maybe even boring, and I was okay with that. Married to Emily for nearly 8 years, I truly believed we were the couple people envied. Stable, loving, comfortable. But that illusion shattered the night I walked into what I thought was a celebration. It all began innocently enough. Late Friday night, I was half watching some rerun on TV when a text popped up from Adam, one of my closest friends. "Hey man, don't forget tomorrow. Emily's got something planned. Big party. Be there by 8. I stared at the screen, confused. A party? For what? It wasn't my birthday, and we didn't have any anniversaries coming up. Emily hadn't said a word. I even double-checked the calendar, thinking maybe I'd forgotten something. Still, the thought of her planning something special warmed me. Maybe this was her way of reconnecting, because lately things had felt off. Emily had been working late more often. Her phone never left her side, buzzing constantly, and she'd become an expert at tilting the screen away from me. Whenever I asked, she'd laugh and wave it off. "You're paranoid, Daniel. It's just work." And then there was the ring. Or rather, the absence of it. About a month ago, I noticed she'd stopped wearing her wedding band. At first, she said it was getting resized, but weeks passed, and it never reappeared. I didn't press. I trusted her, or at least I told myself I did. But deep down, unease had begun to grow, a heaviness I couldn't shake. The following evening, as I drove to the address Adam sent, that unease gnawed at me. The streets were quiet, the headlights slicing through the dark. My only companion was the hum of the engine. When I arrived, I saw a large, upscale house I didn't recognize. The driveway was packed with cars, and faint music pulsed from inside. I sat there for a moment, staring at the glowing windows. Something didn't feel right. Still, I shook it off. "It's just a party," I told myself. Emily planned this. The least I could do was show up and act surprised. I grabbed the small gift bag I'd thrown together, a running joke between us that I never arrived empty-handed, and walked to the door. The moment I stepped inside, the music hit me like a wave. Voices, laughter, clinking glasses. The whole place buzzed with life. Dim lighting and warm colors filled the room. Familiar faces turned toward me, cheering. "There he is! The man of the hour," someone shouted. I forced a smile, waving awkwardly as my eyes searched for Emily. And then I saw her. She was across the room, mid-laugh, her expression freezing the instant our eyes met. The color drained from her face, as if she'd seen a ghost. And then I noticed him, a man standing beside her, his hand resting casually on her waist, his lips dangerously close to her ear. He turned, following her gaze toward me. Panic flashed across his face. The room seemed to pause. Music, chatter, laughter, all fading into a muffled hum. I stood there, unmoving, staring at my wife and the stranger touching her. The silence was suffocating. Emily opened her mouth, but before she could speak, I did. "Well," I said, my voice cold, "this is quite the surprise." The words sliced through the air. The room fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward me. Confusion, curiosity, discomfort swirling around us. The man's hand slipped from Emily's waist as if it were on fire. She took a hesitant step forward, her smile trembling. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice cracking. "What am I doing here?" I repeated, laughing without humor. I thought this was a party for me. I glanced around. Some of our friends looked away. Others watched intently, like they were glued to a car crash they couldn't stop. But it seems, I continued, the surprise is on me. Emily's cheeks flushed red. Shame, guilt, maybe anger. The man next to her, who I now recognized as Nathan Cole, an old colleague of hers, shifted uneasily, his eyes darting toward the door. "Nathan," I said, my voice dripping with venom. "The guy who used to call me buddy at office events. Ironic, isn't it?" "I can explain," Emily stammered, taking another step forward. "Explain?" I raised a hand, cutting her off. "Right here? In front of everyone?" I gestured to the silent room. "By all means, go ahead. Explain why you're standing here with him." A ripple of whispers spread through the guests. I felt their eyes on us, but I didn't care. I wasn't about to let her worm her way out of this. Not after the late nights, the secrecy, the missing ring. "It's not what it looks like," Nathan muttered, his voice weak and defensive. I laughed bitterly. "That's original. The oldest line in the book. And yet, from where I'm standing, it looks pretty damn clear." Emily's expression hardened. "You're making a scene," she hissed. "Can we talk somewhere private?" "Private?" I echoed. "Oh no, Emily. Not this time. You don't get to hide behind closed doors." I turned back to Nathan. "You're the same guy who shook my hand at our barbecue last summer. Told me I was lucky to have such an amazing wife. So tell me, how long have you been sleeping with her? Before or after that?" Nathan's face went pale. Someone in the corner gasped. "Daniel, stop!" Emily shouted. "No!" My voice was steady, though my pulse pounded in my ears. "I want to hear it. How long?" Nathan looked to Emily for help, but she had none to give. Her arms were crossed tightly, her jaw clenched, her eyes darting as she searched for a way out. "You're acting crazy," she snapped. "You're embarrassing yourself." "Embarrassing myself?" I tilted my head. "Emily, you set this stage. I'm just playing my part." A few guests shuffled toward the door, eager to escape the tension. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted Adam, the friend who'd texted me. He stood silently, watching. He knew, and said nothing. "I hope it was worth it," I said finally, my voice cold. "I really do." Emily's lips parted, maybe to apologize, maybe to justify, but I didn't let her. I turned and walked toward the door, my footsteps echoing in the silence. At the exit, I paused and glanced back one last time. Emily stood motionless, shoulders tense. Nathan hovered beside her, looking like a man who just realized he was in way over his head. "Enjoy the party, everyone," I said. "It's one for the history books." Then I walked out. The cold night air hit me like a slap. It grounded me, pulling me back from the chaos inside. My breath fogged as I walked down the street, aimless, my thoughts a whirlwind. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. I knew who it was. Emily, probably trying to explain. Or maybe one of our friends playing mediator. I didn't care. The signs had always been there. The missing ring, the late nights, the hidden messages. I'd just been too blind to see them. I kept walking, the city humming around me, distant laughter, passing cars. But I felt like I was underwater. My mind replayed the scene again and again. Emily's frozen expression, Nathan's panicked face. The illusion I had lived in was gone. I stopped beneath a flickering streetlight, staring into nothing. I couldn't go home. Not yet. The house we shared would feel hollow now. So I walked, and walked, until the neon glow of a small diner called to me from the corner of the block. The bell jingled as I stepped inside, the smell of coffee and fried food wrapped around me like a blanket. "Sit anywhere," the waitress called, not even glancing up. I slid into a booth at the far end, my hands trembling as I picked up the menu I wouldn't read. My phone buzzed again. I ignored it. Then again. And again. "Daniel, please answer me. I can explain. It's not what you think. Please come home." Not what I think. If I heard that phrase again, I'd lose it. The waitress brought my coffee with a knowing smile. "Rough night?" "You could say that," I muttered. "Heartbreak makes the world feel small," she said softly before walking away. She was right. It did. And as the steam rose from the cup, I stared at the phone lighting up again and again. Texts I wasn't ready to read. Not yet. Not until I decided what came next. Because this story, my story, was far from over. I don't know how long I sat there, nursing coffee that went from scalding to lukewarm to cold, before the bell over the diner door jingled again, and a gust of night air swept through the room. I looked up out of habit and froze. Nathan Cole. For a second I thought my tired brain was inventing things. But there he was, hair a little mussed, eyes scanning the booths like he was hunting for someone. When his gaze landed on me, he hesitated, a brief flinch, guilt written so plainly across his face that I felt it like a slap. Then he straightened, forced his shoulders back, and walked toward my table. I sat up, fists curling beneath the formica. "Daniel," he said, voice low, cautious. "Can we talk?" "You've got some nerve," I replied, ice in my tone. He rubbed the back of his neck, avoiding my eyes. "I know. I messed up. But there's more to this than you think." "Don't," I cut in. "Don't feed me that line. I saw what I saw." He let out a long breath and finally met my stare. "I didn't come to make excuses. I came because I owe you the truth." "The truth?" My jaw tightened. "You mean the part where you show up to a party with your hand on my wife's waist?" He winced, like the words stung. "It started because she needed someone to talk to," he said carefully. "She's been struggling. Said you'd grown distant. Said you didn't look at her the same anymore." The words hit somewhere between my ribs. I opened my mouth to deny it, but nothing came out. Maybe work had made me quieter. Maybe I had been carrying my stress like armor. None of that excused what I'd seen. "That doesn't justify anything," I said, flat as stone. He nodded quickly. "I'm not saying it does. I'm just trying to explain how we got here." I slammed my palm on the table. The cup rattled. The waitress glanced over and then looked away, reading the room. "You were supposed to be my friend," I said. The shame on his face was unmistakable. "I know," he said softly. "If I could undo it, I would." I stared at him until the anger threatened to boil over. Then I slid out of the booth, the vinyl squeaking. "Keep your apologies," I said. "You're done with me. Both of you." He didn't protest as I walked past him, the bell above the door crying out as I stepped into the night again. The cold felt harsher this time. Meaner. I shoved my hands into my pockets and headed nowhere in particular. The city's late-night hum filing the silence I couldn't bear. The words I just heard replayed like a broken tape. "She said you'd grown distant. She said you didn't look at her the same." I didn't want to believe him. I couldn't. But doubt, once planted, has a way of growing in the dark. A dim sign outside a narrow bar flickered like a heartbeat. I pushed inside without thinking. The place was half empty, wooden stools and dull mirrors, a low thrum of conversation, and the soft music of glass on wood. "Whiskey," I told the bartender. "Neat." He slid it over with a tired nod. The first sip burned its way down, then settled into a slow warmth that did nothing to quiet the storm. The stool beside me creaked. I didn't look over until a dry voice said, "You look like hell." I turned. Megan. Emily's closest friend since college, the kind of person who'd been at every birthday dinner, every backyard cookout, every holiday table. Sharp eyes, quicker mind. "What are you doing here?" I asked, more flat than curious. "Same as you," she said, taking a small sip of something clear. Finding a quiet corner. I didn't answer. Silence stretched. Finally, she said, "I know about tonight." My grip tightened on the glass. "Do you now?" "Emily called me," Megan said. "She told me you showed up. She told me Nathan was there." I huffed a humorless laugh. "Did she also tell you his hand was on her? Or did that detail get lost in transmission?" Megan's expression didn't change. "She told me more than you think. She told me about weeks of panic and not sleeping, about feeling like she was disappearing. She also told me she didn't know how to tell you any of it." "Here it comes," I muttered. "The rationalization." She set her glass down gently. "It's not a rationalization, Daniel. It's context. And there's something else you don't know." I looked at her, exhausted and raw. "Then say it." Megan hesitated. When she spoke, her voice was lower. "Nathan isn't just some guy from the office. He's been seeing Emily, professionally." The word hung there, strange and heavy. "Professionally?" I repeated. "He's her therapist," Megan said. I blinked. The room seemed to tilt. "Excuse me." "She didn't know how to tell you," Megan went on. "She was ashamed. She thought you'd see it as weakness. Nathan stepped in because she asked for help." My mind rebelled. The scene at the party, the way he leaned in, the way she froze. None of it looked like clinical distance. It looked like an embrace. It looked like violation. "And the party?" I asked, too quickly. "The whispering? The hand on her waist? Is that in the brochure for therapy sessions now?" "I don't know what happened there," Megan said. "I'm not saying everything adds up. I'm saying you need to hear it from her. All of it." I stared down at my drink and saw nothing. For a heartbeat, I wanted to believe it. That there was some twisted explanation that would make this less ugly. But the image was carved into me. Emily, startled mid-laugh. Nathan's hand where it should never have been. The crowd going quiet like they'd watched a mask fall. "Talk to her," Megan said, softer. "You owe each other that much." I left cash on the bar and stood. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To get the truth." The night met me with needles of cold. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Emily's name, and hit call. 2 rings. Then her voice. Thin, frayed. "Daniel? Where are you?" "Home?" I asked. "Yes," she whispered. Please come back. We need to talk." "I'm coming," I said, and hung up. The drive took minutes I couldn't feel. Our porch light cut a pale circle onto the steps. Through the window, I saw her silhouette, small and still. I sat in the car longer than I meant to, fingers white on the wheel, Megan's words looping with everything I didn't want to think. Inside, Emily was pacing. She stopped when the door clicked shut, eyes swollen, face drained. "Daniel," she said, barely a sound. "Sit," I told her, pointing to the couch. She sat, hands twisting together. "Start talking," I said, standing where I was. "What was Nathan doing with you tonight?" "It isn't what you think," she said immediately. "Please believe me." "Make me," I said. She swallowed. "I started seeing Nathan months ago, as a therapist." Her voice wavered. "I didn't know how to tell you. You were so far away, even when you were here. I felt like I was shouting across a canyon." The words scraped at me. I forced my jaw to unclench. "And the party? The way he held you?" "I wasn't in his arms like that," she said, tears breaking free. "He invited me to celebrate his engagement. I was only going to stop by. When I saw you, I panicked. I didn't want you to find out like that." "Engagement," I repeated, the syllables dry. "He's engaged." She nodded, wiping her cheeks. "To someone else. There's nothing going on between us." The floor seemed to shift. Part of me wanted to let the anger deflate, to lay down in whatever this new explanation was and sleep for a year. But something needled me, stubborn and sharp. If he's your therapist, I said slowly, why the secrecy? Why the hiding? You knew how it would look. I was ashamed, she whispered. Seeing a therapist felt like failing. I didn't want you to see me as broken. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed on the table. Megan's name lit the screen. Emily saw it and went still. Why is she calling you? She asked. I didn't reply. I stepped onto the porch and answered. Megan? Her voice was careful. There's one more thing. Nathan's engagement is real. But I've watched him around Emily. He's not as distant as he should be. It's too familiar. Too warm. I can't say what it is, but it doesn't feel professional. I thought you should know. Ice slid under my skin. Megan wasn't the dramatic type. She didn't stir the pot for fun. I'll call you back, I said, and ended the call. Inside, Emily looked fragile, hands clasped like a prayer. What did she say? That he's too close, I answered. That something's off. For a fraction of a second, a ripple crossed her face, something like fear or doubt. It was gone just as quickly, but I saw it. That's not true, she said. I told you everything. You told me a version, I said quietly. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not. But I'm done guessing. Daniel, I'm going to hear it from him, I said, turning for the door. Please don't, she said, voice breaking. Don't make this worse. This is already worse, I said, and left. I don't remember the drive across town, only the washed-out glow of streetlights and the steady drum of my pulse. Nathan's office was in one of those sleek, glass and steel buildings that look expensive even when they're empty. The lobby was quiet, security desk unattended at this hour. I moved like I belonged, and the elevator moved with me. His name was on a frosted pane. N. Cole, Counseling. I knocked. A beat. Then, come in. He sat behind a tidy desk. When he saw me, surprise flashed, then smoothed into something neutral. Daniel, he said, it's late. We're going to make it brief, I replied, stepping inside and shutting the door. Tell me the truth about you and Emily. He leaned back, schooling his features into calm. She told you I'm her therapist, I assume. She did, I said. She also told me you're engaged, and that nothing is going on. A pause. Then he sighed and folded his hands. Do you want the professional answer or the honest one? He asked. The honest one. He looked at the desk rather than at me. It began professionally. She was hurting. You were drifting. She needed an anchor. My stomach turned. And you made yourself the anchor. I made a mistake, he said. I let the line blur. It happens. My vision narrowed. So it is happening. He didn't flinch. Yes. We've been involved. The room tilted again, then righted. I closed the distance between us in 2 steps and grabbed his collar, yanking him forward. His chair skidded. Papers leapt into the air. You think this is a game, I said, each word shaking. You think you get to dissect my marriage like a lab rat and call it a mistake? Daniel, he choked. Let go. This isn't... Here's what this is, I said, shoving him back against the desk so hard a pen holder toppled. You won't go near her again. And when I'm done, everyone you answer to will know exactly what line you crossed. Fear flickered behind the practiced calm. You don't want to do this. Watch me, I said, and released him with a final shove. We're finished. I was halfway down the hall before I realized I was shaking. In the elevator mirror, I barely recognized the man staring back. By the time I reached the car, the shaking had calcified into something like exhaustion. Home waited whether I wanted it to or not. When I walked in, Emily stood up so quickly she almost stumbled. You went to see him? She said, voice raw. Yes, I answered, flat. He told me everything. Her mouth opened, then closed. Whatever denial she might have had left dissolved. She sank onto the couch, hands covering her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered, words breaking apart. "I didn't mean for any of this." "You didn't mean for it," I said, the edge gone from my voice, leaving it hoarse. "You lied to me. You chose him, and he's already lying to someone else." "It wasn't about him," she said, looking up, eyes shining with a kind of grief that made something deep in me give way. "It was about me not recognizing myself, about feeling like I was disappearing in our house, in our life, in your silence." "So you reached for the closest hand," I said. She didn't argue. The silence between us filled the room, thick as fog. "I don't think I can forgive this," I said finally, and the truth of it hurt in a clean, precise way. "I loved you. I trusted you. You broke it." Tears slid down her face. "Please don't go," she said. "I'll do anything to fix it." "Some things don't go back together," I said. I stood there for one more heartbeat, memorizing the picture without wanting to. The couch, the lamp's small circle of light, the woman I married, and the space between us that we'd both fed until it became a canyon. Then I picked up my keys and walked to the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't need to. The click of it closing felt final enough. Outside, the cold took my breath and gave it back colder. The streetlights hummed. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked at nothing. I got in the car and stared through the windshield at a life that, 10 hours earlier, had still been my life. Now it was a map of roads I didn't recognize. I turned the key, and the engine answered. I pulled away from the curb, from the house, from the version of myself that thought love could survive on autopilot. Behind me, the porch light burned on, as if it couldn't quite accept that no one was coming home.